Welcome to Will It Work? I'm Kevin, and today we got the Bandai Supervision 8000. Tell you might be like, Kevin, you've made over 400 videos at this point. How many videos of consoles are you going to make? How many consoles are there? Well, I tell you, we're getting close to the end. We really are. Probably have another, depending on when, these all don't go out in order. So this might go out like 20 consoles later than the ones I put up, or 30 later. So I'm just, but based on what I have left right now, there's probably around 40 or 50 more consoles to post. And then at that point, I plan on sort of saying like, hey, that's all I have, like have a little wrap-up video that says like, that's all the ones I have on hand. And the rest of them are going to be units that, I will buy piecemeal. There's new units coming out, like Steam Deck, for instance. Eventually, we're supposed to see that Intellivision Amico come out. This is, not to date myself, if you're watching this video in the past, this is currently April of 2022 that I'm talking about this. So those things are not technically out yet. Although I think you can maybe get a Steam Deck now, maybe, if you're early in the list. But I'm not. I'm further down the list, but that's okay. Things expensive anyway, just for a PC that's in your hands. I kind of have thoughts about that, but we'll talk about that when I review it. Yeah, so we're getting near the end here. Mainline consoles, there's not too many left, but this is one. And this is, I would say this is rare. Maybe more rare than getting an Adventure Vision. Not as expensive as getting an Adventure Vision, but I see Adventure Visions show up every so often. I don't see these show up very often at all. Sold in Japan by Bandai, is a game console, obviously, and it ran on ROM carts rather than games, that had the chip on the cart. This is a standard ROM cart, Beam, it's like Beam Galaxian or something, and, etc. This one's pretty obscure. I don't, I think Bandai didn't run with this very long, and so it's known. If you're a collector, this is, one that collectors have. It's not super rare, but it just doesn't come up very often. Now, it's interesting that these have the number pad and the disc like the Intellivision, as well as we've seen that same sort of thing on the Arcadia. And I think that based on what I know from looking at the history and from talking with people, the Intellivision was kind of built out from the, I believe it was the Gemini system. And they, Mattel gave an exclusive license to Radofin to make the Intellivision, manufacture it for them, and I think they had some input into its design, at least in terms of some of the, case design, probably some controller design features, etc. But who knows with all that at this point. However, that was exclusive to Radofin, which was a company that was based out of Hong Kong, that was building it for Mattel. And keep in mind that this was, when we think about Hong Kong today, it's not quite the same as it was back, in the 70s and 80s, when it was still controlled by Great Britain. So there was a big English influence there, in terms of manufacturing and all that sort of thing. It wasn't as Chinese driven, right? So that's just something to keep in mind about how like this kind of thing works, because it's like, you have this sort of English connection over there with these companies, and then they would, England, Great Britain, let's say, the United Kingdom, even better, you know, has their footprint all around the world, you know, different countries, and and so you had a lot of international distribution because of that type of thing. But anyway, Bandai, Japanese company, and they must have gotten some of the idea from them. But I think that Radofin, when they designed theirs, I believe the Arcadia was probably produced by United Appliances Limited as a response to the Intellivision. Like, the Intellivision was exclusive to Mattel, and it was coming out of the same area that United Appliances Limited was at. United Appliance Limited created the Arcadia. It was actually called, like, for their patents and everything, it was called something like the Game System or something, or Game Center. I can't quite remember. And it just was made popular because the more popular license was Emerson, when they came out with the Arcadia 2001, which was just a rebranded version of that model. There were all kinds of different models because it wasn't exclusive to just one company like the Intellivision was. So anyway, those two game systems had the disc controllers, and then with the Bandai, you have something very similar. Unfortunately, though, well, I haven't tried this yet. I'm sure these pads up here are okay. You notice, though, that this is kind of a lot more generic in the sense of there's like no tactile feel on any of these buttons. It does look like you can, it seems like you can slide an overlay in here that maybe can go over the top of this, but I don't know, because that's pretty flush with the top up there, but it does look like something could slide in onto that and act as an overlay. Did this have overlays? I don't know. But one thing it only has, well, okay, there's only one button over here, which is fine, I guess. But this disc, it doesn't spin, so it's fixed in place. And if you've ever used one of these, that makes it so this is real, you know, it's kind of hard to slide your finger over this metal-ish, I think it's faux metal, but it's hard because it doesn't move, and your finger kind of, it sticks. So it's not, you're really going to have to kind of pick it up, your finger, and push on it to make it work. But yeah, one button there, and some things, but whatever. I mean, it was an early game system, right? Power and reset and the button choices. I mean, even this here, you have this big square right here, which it looks like, you know, there would be a label here or something, or who knows, just like, it seems like they intended there to be something there, and there's not. Instead you have this branding here, whatever. Now, what's even more rare than this unit itself is actually this power supply that goes to the Supervision 8000. And the reason this is rare isn't just because it's an official power supply for it, but rather that this particular power supply has two outlets on it. It's got two different voltages that, and probably amps, that are coming into this particular system. And so, you know, if you know what they are, I'm sure you can run two different plugs in and run it off of two power plugs and get this thing to work for you. But this particular power plug tends to get lost when these things go up, you know, or moved or you know, passed around, etc. People don't end up having these. So this is actually the power supply is more rare than the Supervision 8000. But anyway, I don't think it has a built-in game. I don't know if it does. I will turn it on without a cartridge in it, and we'll see what it does. And it does have a, but I do have the Beam Galaxian, and we'll give that a try, and hopefully that works for us. It is an RF deal here on the back. There is an auxiliary port, which I'm not quite sure what that's for, but I'll probably look it up to see. I doubt it's a composite out. And then we have our standard RF. And from what I can tell, there is no, maybe it's right there. Good. So there is a channel 2 and a channel 1. That'll make it a little bit easier to try to get in a signal with this thing. These things tend to be hard, you know, Japanese ones to get on American televisions, etc. But we've had a pretty good success rate with it. Although for whatever reason, sound sometimes ends up on a different channel than video. Why? I don't know. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'll wire it all up, and I'll get us a picture, and we'll switch over to the video side, and we'll take a look, and we'll see what the Supervision 8000 was capable of when it launched. This also, yeah, is known as a TV jack. It was the TV jack was a series from Bandai. They had a bunch of TV jack Pong systems. We looked at a couple of them on the show, at least one I know for sure. And then the earlier one, I think, was the TV Jack 5000 that we looked at. That took cartridges as well, but those were the kind that had the processor on the cartridge. This was a ROM system from Bandai, and it was the last of the TV Jack series. And I can't quite remember what Bandai did after this specifically, but you know, Bandai has always tried to get a foot in the door in the video game market, and other than their games, of course, but in consoles, they've always tried to do stuff. And I don't know if they've ever had a great success. Wonder Swan did pretty good when it first launched, but I don't think they were able to follow up with that. And just off the top of my head here, I might be missing something, you know. Anyway, neither here nor there. Let's switch over to the video side, and let's see if it works. Here we go. So as is typical with these things, this is the Supervision 8000. Trying to get it in color and, you know, working right is with a good TV signal. It's always a bit of a struggle here with Japanese TV systems. Let's see if we can get this to do something. Let's see if we can get it to work. 1 or 2, 1. Push 1 or 2, 1. Okay, so it's the right controller. Oh, Jesus. Now, I know this picture's terrible, but hold on. I just want to see if I can get it to work first. Then we'll see about getting the picture right. So it's definitely some kind of version of Galaxian running at a very, very high speed. Interestingly enough, the sounds you're hearing are coming out of the unit itself, just like an old Pong system would. It's not actually coming out of the TV, so they may not be timed perfectly with what you're seeing of the blurry black and white mess, but that is interesting. There's also like a hum. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna pause it and see if I can get a better picture. So this isn't a whole lot better, but it's in color. But we got some really shaky scan lines here. You know, normally they tell you that you can tune it to like channel 95 or 96, but like it's all over the map on these kinds of things. This one here is channel 37, and yeah, it's just pretty terrible to try to play something. But if I were to like go to channel, if I were to go to like say channel 96, you can kind of see for a second it kind of pops up there and then it vanishes. And there's no other channels. I went through the entire dial. If I switch the switch from channel 2 to 1, I can go to channel 95, and that gives us the original one. But I think a lot of this, you know, has to do with the fact that we're running through an encoder, right, out of a VCR. And so, you know, it's like if we were to have this running actually through a regular TV with tuning dials on it, like an old school 70s TV or maybe an 80s TV, you can kind of tune the band around a little bit, and that's kind of what these things were made to do. They were never really that precise. It wasn't like a digital tuning type of thing. And then once you kind of tune it in, then it would be in color, and hopefully your picture would be stable and everything. It's just the age of the system and all that. But, ultimately it works, and it could be, somebody could open it up and drive out like a composite signal out of it somehow. There's people that do that kind of thing. The end game, we're ultimately just making sure that these things are functional, and this one is. Yeah, I only have the one game for it, but a little piece of history. Thanks for watching. I'll see you